Hello, and welcome to the Feeling Good podcast, where you can learn powerful techniques to change the way you feel. I am your host, Dr. Rhonda Borowski, and joining me here in the Murrieta studio is Dr. David Burns. Dr. Burns is a pioneer in the development of cognitive behavioral therapy and the creator of the new team therapy. He is the author of Feeling Good, which has sold over 5 million copies in the United States and has been translated into over 30 languages. His latest book, Feeling Great, contains powerful new techniques that make rapid recovery possible for many people struggling with depression and anxiety. Dr. Burns is currently an emeritus adjunct professor of clinical psychiatry at Stanford University School of Medicine.
Hello, Rhonda.
Hello, David, and welcome to our listeners across the country and around the world to the Feeling Good podcast, episode 320.
David, you want to say what everyone's going to be listening to?
Well, we have a really special two-part podcast with some very, very neat people who I appreciate and admire greatly. Karen and volunteered to be our patient and on working in a podcast on mother-daughter relationships. And often, as adults, our relationships with our parents can be troubled, and there's a lot of room for growth. And this one is very special because it will, first of all, feature our fantastic Jill Levitt, and Jill and I will be co-therapists, and there's always magic when we work together. And we'll be talking about the powerful hidden emotion technique. In this case, the hidden emotion isn't subconsciously hidden; it's intentionally put under the rug. And also panic attacks and the daily mood log, negative thoughts, and also how very difficult it can be to use the 5 secrets of effective communication. They sound easy and logical and straightforward, but they require tremendous skill, tremendous commitment, and tremendous courage. And I just want to thank you, Karen, and Jill, and they'll be with us at the end of the second podcast to get follow-up. But I just think this makes for a fabulous human experience for all of us, showing people as we really are, instead of the face we put on to impress other people. And to me, there's always magic in that, as well as the methods that we're using to try to bring about rapid changes, rapid recovery for people, which is a very controversial theme. Some people love it and think it's fantastic. Some people hate it and think it's worse than rotten potatoes. But I'm a great supporter of the concept. And I hope you enjoy these 2 podcasts and learn a tremendous amount from them. Anything else, Rhonda?
Well, just that recently you and I did a podcast on the 5 secrets, which is relevant for these 2 podcasts. And and that was episode 312. And we got a lot of feedback about that episode. And one was really interesting. Mariusz Werga, who's a psychiatrist, a team psychiatrist in Long Beach, who wrote us that I learned so much from this episode. The nuance of the 5 secrets is so rich, and the learning never ends.
Thank you for that kind comment. And he is the gentleman who organized the World Congress in Warsaw, Poland, World Congress of the first one for Team CBT. So thank you so much for giving that gift to everyone in our Team CBT community.
Cool. So shall we take a listen to the first half?
Let's dive in and let her roll. We'll start out with testing and empathy today, and next week we'll go into agenda setting or the assessment of resistance, which is huge in this case, very important, and then methods, which is also very important. Then you'll get actual follow-up from Karen, who will be with us next week. She's actually with us now, but we'll pretend because we're going to record the end today as well. So, okay, I hope you enjoy it, and we'll see you at the end of today's recording. I want to thank you, Karen, for volunteering to be the patient tonight with a very real problem that I think many will identify with, and a problem with a lot of human potential for connecting with you, as well as teaching potential for learning more about how team works and how hopefully good psychotherapy works. Now, I'll just quickly go over Karen's brief mood survey that you kindly sent us, and you sent your daily mood log to the group, so you should all have that to refer to. But your depression level prior to today's group was 3, which is minimal, but you're feeling somewhat sad and moderately discouraged or hopeless, and so those feelings can be pretty potent. And no suicidal thoughts or urges. Your anxiety is 10 out of 20, so that's a moderate level of anxiety. And your anger, which I think might turn out to be important, it's hard to predict ahead of time, but is 7 out of 20. So it's not vast, but there's substantial anger there, which seems clear too from your daily mood log. And then your happiness is on a scale of 0 to 20 is only 10. And although you're just a little bit depressed, 3 out of 20, it's enough to take all the bang out of your capacity for happiness. And you're only moderately happy or joyful and only somewhat hopeful or optimistic. And you do feel a lot of self-esteem, but not complete. And motivated and productive moderately, pleasure or satisfaction in life moderately. So there's a lot of room for moving up in the happiness realm. Also, a relationship with your mom is 19 out of 30, 30 being the highest possible score. And although you're very satisfied in degree of affection and caring, most of the other areas are marked down a little bit or a good bit, such as resolving conflicts, openness, intimacy and closeness, overall satisfaction. And they may also prove to be keys to our work tonight. You didn't indicate how much homework you've done, but we would have to say a lot since you sent us some. So why don't we dive into the empathy phase here? Thank you once again, Karen, and tell us kind of what's been going on with you and your mom and why you reached out to us to get a little bit of help tonight.
Yeah, so thank you, David and Jill, for offering me this opportunity to do personal work today. On Wednesday night, I woke up in the middle of the night with panic attacks. It was probably 3, 4 a.m. And I don't know, just kind of ended a cycle of sleep. Maybe my dog woke me up and there was just no way of going back to sleep. It was just like one cycle of panic attack after the other. I remember 3 vivid ones. And I kind of tend to somaticize. I tend to, not so much the thoughts that get through my head. I just kind of really feel weak. I feel nauseated. I feel really sour in my stomach. I feel like I don't really have any energy in my muscles and kind of feeling almost like weak and almost paralyzed from just like being emotionally unstable. And what happened just few days before that is that my mom is visiting me. And I've been living in this country for 20 years. My parents didn't come to visit me once. So they came to visit me once on my graduation over 10 years ago. I think it was maybe 11 or 12 years ago. And I've been a bit upset about them not visiting me. And I kind of always try to hint in a way that, maybe you will come, but there was always the expectation that I will go and visit. And I did every year. And I started building resentment around it. And I just kind of felt like I didn't want to go anymore, but I just go out of like family obligation and I don't really enjoy it. I have a lot of panic attacks when I go to Israel, which is probably all connected to what we're going to talk about today. And on my last visit in May, I knew that I have an issue there and I wanted to address the hidden emotion that I should probably let them know I'm a little upset that they're not coming to visit me. And I said that and it was very well received and now they're coming to visit. So my mom just came a week ago on Friday And my dad will be joining us in a week or so. So I get a little bit of a time alone with mom. And that was planned. I planned that this way so I can have a little time alone with her. And, I always say that my mom stresses me out. I kind of joke about it for being the Jewish mom and all that kind of stuff, but there's definitely some truth to it. And when she arrived, it was just really exciting, and I tried to do a lot of stuff with her. But after 4 days, I kind of reached the point of like, this is overwhelming. What are you doing? How are you going to pass the next 6 weeks with her? This is so much work, and it's giving you panic attacks, and you're not going to be able to function, and just like all those things that I tell myself that I listed in the negative thoughts. And I feel sad that she's coming to visit me after all this time, and I cannot enjoy the time with her because I'm just like so reactive and like feeling a little bit emotional fragile. And I'm trying not to show it to her because I want to have a quality time with her. And there's just relationships are complex, and there's a lot to it. My mom is 73. She has osteoporosis, and she kind of entered a phase of needing more care. And so it's kind of difficult. It's difficult to see her age. It's difficult to see her need help in areas that she didn't used to need help. And that me and my siblings don't really have perspective, because my dad is the extreme opposite. My mom was always this kind of low key, doesn't like exercising much, doesn't like kind of doing a lot of like active stuff. And my dad is the extreme opposite. It's like super active, same age, always like running and into karate and swimming and sport and you name it. And so he's almost not aging, and she's aging rapidly. And we feel like I have no like gradual way of reference of like what it's supposed to look like. And so there's anger about her aging. Like, you're not supposed to age so quick, and you should have taken care of yourself. You should have taken better care of yourself. And a lot of frustration is something that we try to prompt over time, and it always just really offended her that we don't accept her as she is, and that, she is who she is, and she doesn't want to exercise. I think it obviously just built more resistance. We didn't get any far with it. And now that her body is, because she didn't maintain it that well, I'm just like, I'm angry, and I know that my siblings are angry about that as well. And I feel that she doesn't get the credit she deserves for being a really good mom, because we're angry at her, and it just really makes me sad.
Are you tearful right now?
Very.
Just let those tears flow, Karen. When you're crying like this, just notice what thoughts are going through your mind, or any pictures that might be going through your mind, so you can share that with us.
Yeah, I think the tears are just still kind of holding back a little bit.
Yeah,
I'm really upset about it.
Mm-hmm. Can I summarize kind of what you've been saying here and see if I got it right?
Yeah.
You start out by saying that you woke up in the middle of the night with panic attacks, really an uncomfortable physical nature, that you get somatic, you feel weak, nauseated, no strength, almost paralyzed, emotionally unstable. And by the way, as you probably know, sometimes a panic attack or any form of anxiety is a symbolic expression of the hidden conflict, and the panic attack is saying, "Oh God, I can't be doing this," and then the heart might be saying, "I don't want to be, so burdened right now." So the panic is kind of showing you, how you're really feeling inside. But it speaks in, like poetry in a symbolic and very painful way for you. And then, of course, this came on, because your mom just came for her first visit 2 days earlier. And then in a week or so, your dad will join. But this was supposed to be some special time for you and your mom. And you've been feeling hurt and resentful because in 20 years, they'd only visited once on your graduation. And you always secretly, wanted them to come and hinted maybe you'll come, but you were the one who always had to go to Israel and feeling resentful, and then you'd go there and have panic attacks. And again, the panic was probably all that anger and resentment you were suppressing, maybe telling yourself you weren't supposed to be feeling angry or resentful. But on the last visit, you kind of kept that hidden emotion thing in mind and hinted to them that you'd love to have them come and visit. And this is the first time you've been alone with Mom, and you were all excited at first, but now you're just feeling like she's stressing me out, and she's a Jewish mom. I'm not exactly sure what a Jewish mom is.
Maybe a little overbearing, taking care of you, just doesn't give you enough space.
Oh, okay. All righty. I see. I got it. But after 4 days, you've been started feeling overwhelmed, and it's so much work, and I won't be able to function. The same type of thing that your panic attack is. I'm not going to be able to function, which is I really don't want to be functioning. I don't want to be doing this, but at the same time, I feel sad because I can't enjoy the time, and I really love my mom, although I'm angry with her, and I want to enjoy the time, and she's feeling fragile. You're feeling fragile, and you're kind of hiding how you feel because you think you're not supposed to be feeling this way. You're supposed to be happy with your mom visiting, and she's 73, and she's getting to where she needs more care. She hasn't been keeping up with herself physically, and it's hard for you emotionally to see her age. Not only does that make you sad, but it makes you angry, and your siblings too are angry with her because she doesn't exercise, whereas your dad is super active. He's always involved with swimming and karate and things, and she's angry, and you're thinking that you but don't want to say probably that you should have taken care of yourself, and but she's upset that we don't accept her as she is, and you also love her and feel like she doesn't get the credit she deserves because she's been kind of a wonderful mother, and right now you're kind of maybe feeling like you don't know how to integrate all of this, or what's the path out of the woods. You're feeling kind of lost and overwhelmed and guilty and angry and anxious and panicky and all kinds of powerful emotions at the same time. Is that fairly accurate, or am I getting at it?
You're definitely getting at it. I think the only thing is that I don't feel that I'm supposed to be. I feel like I'm supposed to be happy while she's with me, but it's just that I just don't want her to see me unhappy. I don't want her to see me.
Oh, yeah, that you don't want her to see. And why don't you want her to see you unhappy?
I guess that's my way of taking care of her, because that would upset her.
And then what? And then what would happen? She was upset.
I know. She'll be upset, and I'll feel upset for making her upset. And then we're going to cry about it. And I don't know. I really don't know.
Sure. But you're feeling a lot of things on the inside, but you're telling yourself, I shouldn't be sharing these things. I shouldn't let my mom know how I feel. I should try to appear, happy in the way things should be, or the way I want them to be. And the way they really are, the way I'm really feeling is kind of bad and incorrect.
Yeah, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling, and I do not want to spend a little time we have together. My neuroticism and how I feel bad because, I'm.
Yeah. I'm feeling overwhelmed and bad that I'm feeling bad, because I want to be feeling good when my mother visits, and, bring out the loving side. And all this anger and resentment and panic and overwhelmed is just bad, wrong stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's been 11 years since she visited me for the first time, and there's probably not going to be a next time. So I would like this time to be special.
Yeah. Yeah. You love her and you really want it to be special, and you don't know, how many times you'll have with her.
Yeah. Not just she's ready to turn and die tomorrow, but like in terms of her coming over to spend time with me here.
Yeah. Sure.
Can I empathize with Karen a little too, David?
Yes, please. Actually, I was going to say, Jill, please jump in.
Yeah, no, Karen, I just wanted to say, it's clear to me how much you love your mother, and also how much your parents love you. I was really touched by the fact that it sounds like you kind of got brave enough to share with them in this last visit to Israel that it was upsetting to you that they hadn't come to visit you. And it sounded like, they quickly responded and planned this visit to come see you. So I was, touched both by just how loyal and loving you've been toward them with this great distance. And then also clearly how much they love you, that they've planned this trip to visit you and were responsive to sharing your feelings with them. And I just wanted to acknowledge too, just how difficult it must be for you and for them too, to have this like loving, close family connection, but be so far apart. I just cannot really quite imagine what it would feel like to have, your parents just literally across the world and time zones apart. And I'm just thinking that it's so hard to have long distance relationships in general. And I'm feeling for you the pressure that comes from not seeing someone that you love for such a long time. And then when you see them, feeling this pressure that the time that you have with them should be special and sweet and conflict free. And yet, of course, feeling all of these real feelings of annoyance and irritability. And, I can only imagine that having your slowed down 73-year-old mother, like living with you when you're used to being worlds apart, is quite an adjustment. So I can just feel how deep your love is, and then how complicated it must feel to have her finally here, have her aging, have you want this time to be special. And then of course have these very normal feelings of annoyance and frustration at her being, probably like ever present versus, the distance that you've become accustomed to. Do you feel like I'm kind of understanding you and what you're struggling with at this time?
I think you're adding, you're peeling off layers of kind of revealing the complexity of, being in this long distance relationship with family. It's been my escape, I think, from some family pressure and expectations and such. But it's been really a mixed bundle that part of me kind of I could be more me. Mm-hmm. I often felt that I could not be me around them because they want me to be a different version of me that I could never be. And so it was really comfortable to create that distance and be away, but it also created a gap, and it is getting more difficult with parents getting old. And something that I didn't share, but I do want to share with Jill, is that when I was in Israel and I was telling them expressed my desire for them to come and visit me, I kind of really thought to myself, okay, what would Jill say? How would Jill phrase it? And I kind of really needed to have a little bit of an inner Jill at the moment, because it was challenging, but hey, it worked. So I said something right.
Well, I'm honored to hear that I was in your mind when you were sharing your feelings with your family. That's really sweet.
Thank you.
But I did hear what you just said in sharing that with us, which I think was important, was that, being far apart definitely has its challenges, but it also brings you a sense of relief. Being with them was not living, I guess, even in the same like location generally as them felt like a lot for you. It felt like pressure. You didn't feel like you could really be yourself around them. Yeah. And so it sounds like there's a lot of relief that comes from living apart. But then the problem with living apart is that when you do see each other, because you live so far away, you see each other for these long concentrated periods, right? So like you escape and then all of a sudden, boom, there's like immersion, I'm sure, when you see each other, because you're seeing each other for weeks at a time.
Yeah.
And that's got to be very challenging.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Well, everything you're saying is so important, Karen. You one thing you said just a moment ago, and I feel sad that you're under such, it's like two oceans colliding or something like that, making all these big waves and slamming against the cliffs and that type of thing. But you said, I cannot be me. They want me to be a different version of me. What is the version of me that you think they want you to be?
The first thing that comes to mind is a mother.
Oh my goodness. That brings us back to some of your work, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, it does. Yeah. So when I was a grad student, up until I got married over about 8 years ago, every trip to Israel would be matchmaking. My parents tried to match me up. Which was really intense, and I was not really interested. And even if I had a boyfriend, it didn't matter. They just try to set me up with someone, and there was just no interest in getting to know who I am and what I'm doing and what I'm learning, what kind of person I'm becoming, and what my interests are. It's just like, we have a daughter, we need to get married in Israel, like yesterday, but just like a lot of pressure. And it was very unpleasant.
Sounds very unpleasant.
Yeah, it was very unpleasant.
And what you were so first they wanted you to get married, and then they wanted you to have children.
That's probably part of the Jewish mom I was talking about. Yeah, they want grandchildren. They want a traditional married children, like daughter.
And that's not what again, I wouldn't know this because I don't know you that well or in that capacity, and you don't want children because you said they want me to be a different version of me. So I'm assuming that what they want for you is not what you want for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never had a passion to become a mother. And I think that, I'm one of those 5% women who just don't have that urge. And it was not really understood. I kind of never, I could see myself adopting, I could see myself having a family, but it was not happening to me, and I was not working hard and getting it because it was just that, again, I think it's a big job. And I think you need to mean it. Like, we saw Carly, she wanted to have children. It was just so beautiful. She got it. And I think you need to have that level of passion for it. And I never had it. And about 4 years ago or so, my husband wanted to have children, and I considered it. And in the process, I discovered I needed to have fertility treatment, and I was very hesitant. I was very, very hesitant, and I actually had a session with David on it during Stanford Tuesday groups 4 years ago. And I just kind of felt like, I felt that going through this process takes so much that you really just need to want it in every cell of your body. And I didn't. And it's just not something that my mom could ever understand and maybe accept about me. And, this session with David was about other things as well. Like, how would someone who specializes in working with children could not have children. So I think we got that out of the way, but there was a lot of pressure for both my parents around it. And family visits were very triggering and not super pleasant.
Wow.
So you probably, maybe you're still feeling on some level like, you're letting them down, or that they wouldn't accept and love you, or be a huge disappointment to them, that the fact that you just don't want to have children. And I can imagine that's weighing on you all the time too.
I don't know. I don't know if it's not weighing on me. I wonder if it's weighing on my mom, and it's just a matter of time before she drops the bomb and say something about it. I think she's realistic. She knows that I'm not an age that I could have children, but I could adopt, and I could have fertility treatment. I'm just not interested. But I'm not there. I just think it's I think you just really need to want it in every cell of your body. I just don't have that urge.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
I really never did.
I can imagine it feels maybe hurt for you that maybe that you're not really accepted, or that they would have trouble accepting you as you really are. Lonely.
Yeah, I think that for the longest time, I felt like kind of invisible, felt unseen, like they don't really see me for who I am. Yeah, I could get an advanced degree, but it doesn't matter because I don't have children or something like that.
It's so sad.
It was hurtful.
It was hurtful. Tremendously.
You haven't also, am I getting that? I'm not sure if this is right or not from what you just said, but you felt maybe not that they weren't proud of you for the things that you felt proud of.
I think they would have been prouder. I think they would have been prouder if I had children that they could brag about. Then I'm sure they're proud. I mean, they express being proud, but
okay.
You see them being proud around their grandchildren, and it shines out of them. It's a different level of pride.
I guess I wanted to ask you, Karen, how do you think that we're doing on empathy? Are you feeling understood by us? Do you feel like we're, connecting with you? Do you feel some warmth? And as we usually do, we ask you, like, what kind of grade would you give us? An A, a B, a C, or a D? And is there anything that we're, still not understanding or not knowing yet?
No, you're great. You're definitely getting an A+. I mean, you're getting it, you're getting me, and you're getting the layers of it without me even telling you. Absolutely. Yeah.
And then I forgot to ask you, how you were feeling just as the session began, but how are you feeling right now, in terms of on a 0 to 100, in terms of negative feelings like anxiety or overwhelmed?
I'm feeling a little more sad. Like I'm feeling, say 80, everything bunched up, like anxious, sad. I don't know. Yeah, just uncomfortable feelings, 80.
Yeah, so like a lot of strong discomfort. And then let's say that tonight's session was very helpful to you, which of course we're hopeful that it will be. What would happen? What would you be asking for tonight if it, that just if you left here in the end of the evening just saying, boy, that was a terrific experience, what would happen?
Well, I kind of just be a client and not a therapist. And I'll say, I don't want to have panic attacks anymore. They're awful.
Okay. So one goal would be no panic attacks. And you said I'd be a person or a patient, not a therapist or something. I didn't get that part of it.
Oh, yeah. Because if I'm thinking as a therapist, I know it's the right answer. And then I'll say what I think is right, but I'll say what I really want, which is I don't want to have panic attacks.
Okay.
So she was saying I'll answer as a patient, not as a therapist.
Yeah. Oh, right? I get it. Yeah, sure. Well, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds good. And
can I ask you a quick question, Karen? Because this is actually important in kind of knowing the direction we go in, really more from like an assessment perspective, which we don't actually usually do within. Like I do with all of my patients, really good, careful assessment before starting, but we kind of don't do that here. So my question for you is, do you typically have panic attacks or like have out of the blue panic attacks? Or does this really feel like what you've told us is my understanding would be more like I'm doing well. It's all feeling good. And then like, I have to interact with my mom, or I have this family tension, or I feel like I've got these feelings that I don't know what to do with, related to my mom's visit or my trip to Israel or something. And then I start to have panic attacks. So help me understand like what they're, are these kind of chronic and out of the blue all the time, or are they very much related to this relationship difficulty?
Yeah, a great question. I do have history of panic attacks. I tend to get more panic attack in Israel. I do have blood injury. Yeah. And about 10 months ago, my mom took a fall in the shower, broke a femur, was on the floor for about good 6 to 7 hours before she was found and rushed to the hospital. And I happened to schedule a flight months in advance, just the day after. And so I got to see her in the hospital and faint and purge and create a whole big drama to the nurses and my family. And so that's another kind of anxiety attack I think I have, again, around body decaying, stuff like that. I have a terrible blood injury. Injection, yeah. But it's not so much the blood, is body injuries.
Right. So you have, but you have sort of that BII phobia as a thing, right? Like you get panic attacks or faint, around the blood injury injection. And then beyond that, you're saying at this point, you notice that you get kind of this anxious and panicky around these like trips and visits.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. So you're not someone that, it's not like you're having anxiety at the mall or in lines or in the movie theaters. Like they're not these chronic panic attacks. They're these kind of, as David says, these little symbolic panic attacks. Yeah. You've got all these feelings coming up for you and they kind of come out in this way.
About 14 or 13 years ago, I had to go back to Israel, what looked at the time as a permanent situation for me. And I had an adjustment disorder. I pretty much within weeks developed extreme panic attacks and depression and other symptoms. And I did have what you're describing. I had panic attacks waiting in line to the supermarket, in the line to the embassy, and I had panic attack. I couldn't drive the car. I couldn't get on a bus. Mm-hmm. It was kind of a major thing, but it was very much what I diagnosed as an adjustment disorder.
Right. And also, interestingly, also related to thinking that you have to go back to Israel. Like thinking, permanently, that you're going to be trapped in this
permanently, absolutely
permanent situation that is not comfortable for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, David. I just felt like for Karen and then also kind of for teaching purposes that we would want to at least make sure that we know what we're dealing with on a symptom level too.
Sure, absolutely. Well done too. I have a question for you, Karen, and thank you for being so real and bringing this to life for us. Part of what's going on, as I see it, is that you're hiding your feelings from your mom and from your family, and thinking that that would be some bad thing would happen if you shared them and opened up, and that would also be taking a risk for you. Like, would my mom really love me as I am, since I'm not that woman who's with the drive to have babies. And if that was a part of what we had to offer tonight, because we've also got your daily mood log and a lot of negative thoughts and things that we can work with using cognitive techniques. But if there was that interpersonal piece, which would be a little bit like exposure, hidden emotion kind of an exposure combined, I guess, would that be something that you'd be open to?
Yeah, I think that when I was having those panic attacks, I think it was around 6 a.m. when I sent you the email, like, I need help. And I was thinking maybe I should just do my own daily mood log and process it myself, or maybe I can get a colleague to process it with me. But I just kind of felt like I couldn't even name what I was feeling. And so I kind of guessed it was a hidden emotion, but it's hidden. So I know there's some anger there. I know there's some stuff there, but I definitely think I need help with that. So yes.
David?
I was just about to say Jill.
So David, first we did some empathy, and then we didn't exactly do the invitation, but we asked her for a grade on empathy, and she gave us kind of an A+. And so our invitation, we kind of moved to the miracle cure question, right? And that's kind of a conceptualization question that we're sitting with right now. We're conceptualizing. And I wonder, David, I was thinking along the same lines as you. I kind of think in my brain, I'm thinking there are like three issues, 3 ways that we could help Karen. And I don't know that we can do all 3 of them today. And I don't know I just want to throw this out, David, and then maybe we can ask Karen. So one of them definitely seems like she has some negative emotions, mixed emotions, lots of love, but also some, feelings of having to hide herself and not feeling understood by her parents. And so I imagine what you're saying, David, there's this sort of hidden emotion, anger, forbidden feelings, and maybe the direction of, uncovering all of them and then sharing them, or doing some even relationship work around how could she be more authentic maybe with her mom.
Yes. And before you go on to the others, let me add to that could be making this phase of life the best.
Right.
The chance to really get close to mom and dad for the first time. And I'm not saying that's what you have to do, but there would be a fantastic upside, potential upside, not just getting rid of the panic attacks, but becoming free as a human being and finding a lot of love. There's no guarantee of anything, but that could be pretty cool. Now let's go on to the options number 2 and 3, which are also good.
Well, so I think option 2, which goes along with it, probably there's another problem here where Karen is telling herself that she shouldn't have the feelings that she's having, and she shouldn't have the thoughts that she's having. And a lot of that would be daily mood log work, individual mood work, where we'd work on all of these kind of should statements, that she's a terrible daughter for having these feelings, that, she should enjoy every minute of every day with her mom. And, that these kinds of things. I should be able to deal with this better. I'm letting down my family. I'm an awful person. So there's definitely some, self-criticism going on that we could also be working on, because I'm sure that adds a whole other layer. She feels bad and then she beats herself up for feeling bad, which of course makes her feel much worse. So that would be option number 2. And then I just, in the back of my mind, I thought another potential direction to go in, but maybe not as important, is that Karen feels frustrated and annoyed with her mom for being kind of the way that she is, overbearing and maybe opinionated and stuff, and for not taking better care of herself. And so potentially, if she wanted to feel more settled in her relationship with her mom, we could do forced empathy and help Karen to feel more accepting toward her mother. If that were what she wanted, then she wouldn't maybe feel so annoyed and frustrated with her. So I just thought that was another possibility.
Well, I'm with you on number 1 and number 2, and I thought number 3, that's pretty darn brilliant there. I hadn't thought of that at all, Jill, but that's another great idea. And, from the point of view of, our teaching, I start conceptualizing things really early on, even before, in this case, before seeing Karen, just looking at the daily mood log. And I was even thinking of sending a note out to the group. How do you conceptualize this? What tools do we have? And that's very important. And how will we find out which is, there's one correct way forward, and how will we find out what that is?
We have to ask Karen what her agenda is, right? What is it? We've sort of done a little multiple choice conceptualization, which I often do with my patients too. These are the different things I could imagine helping you with, especially after, an initial evaluation, and like, which direction would you want to go in? What kind of help are you looking for?
Do any of these make sense to you, Karen?
All of them make sense to me. I think that I'm kind of drawn to the daily mood log and the forced empathy. And the reason for that is that I have enough time with mom, and I've been trinkling 5 Secrets and getting across the frustration. It's hard. Like, I feel like I cannot tell her I'm angry at you for not taking care of yourself. And that's the main thing I'm angry about. But, we actually had a conversation the other day, and she's kind of like, all right, so that's how it went. We're sitting in our bed talking, and my guest room is my meditation room. And I have my little meditation corner with my spiritual pictures of my spiritual teachers. And she kind of looked at my teachers, and she said, why don't they help me? And I kind of got defensive and like, what do you mean? Why don't you talk to your teachers? But I kind of, I held back, and I said, have you been talking to your spiritual guides? Have you been talking to your teachers, to your, whatever you believe in? And she said, yes. And then it kind of really hit me that, she's really struggling. And she's kind of really hoping to get a miracle. She's getting, God to help her or something. And I said, Mom, I don't want to, I said, we can't stop aging, and that I didn't want to hurt her feelings, but she hasn't really exactly helped herself to improve the situation she's in now. And what we need to do now is to make sure it's not going to get worse. And maybe to maintain it. Maybe it will get better. Maybe it doesn't. Because, maybe it's a little too late. And it's really hard to say that. But I felt like that was as close as I could get for me to tell her that I was actually pretty upset with the way she's been taking care of herself.
So you did share with her something, it sounds like, along the lines of like, maybe you can't reverse aging, but there is stuff that you can do to take better care of yourself.
Yeah, maybe it's not 5 Secrets. Maybe I'm teaching her, and that's not a good communication.
No, I wasn't judging it. I was just trying to understand. That is what you were saying, though, that like maybe there are things you can do to take better care of yourself in the present. You can't reverse what's been done, but maybe you can do better.
Yeah, well, maybe we can prevent it from getting worse.
Right. And I guess the difference there, is what David was talking about, sharing feelings, right? Like, I feel sad that you haven't taken good care of yourself. I feel sad to see you struggling and, with whatever it is, like with your joints or with, just, or that you haven't been active or whatever. But anyway, I sort of realize I'm veering off into, I was trying to clarify. I think the difference, though, between trying to solve the health problem and trying to share your feelings with her, that number one option that David was talking about had to do with really sharing your feelings, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think I'm feeling really sad about it. I did not want to show her that I'm feeling sad, and so I haven't done that.
And then I'm also wondering, and this is kind of therapeutic error, since you omitted the hidden emotion model and sharing your feelings, would that be avoidance? Would that mean that's something that we shouldn't take off the list?
I agree.
Because if you did take that route, you don't have to imagine Jill. You actually have her to provide that fantastic guidance that only Jill can do. But we have the 3 choices. Where are you on that, Jill? Do you have any feeling for where we should go here between these choices? Should we do the daily mood log is pretty easy. Forced empathy might be good, but I'm still, maybe we should just pursue Karen's agenda. That
I hear what you're saying is just wanting to at least share with Karen that if you're feeling sad and disappointed and some level of grief over your mom's current state, and that if that's kind of a pretty strong bundle of emotions that you're feeling and not sharing them with her, that, you know, that we could get you to be less self-blaming and maybe even get you to feel more empathy toward your mom. But if you still have those layers of sort of negative emotions that you're not sharing with her, and they're not all negative. I mean, your feelings of sadness come from love, and your feelings of frustration come from just wishing that she's around forever and ever, you know. So
and your feeling that you're letting her down too, comes from your wanting to make her happy, and the sadness that you feel, you know, that you're not, you know, exactly, you know, what you feel you're not what they were hoping for, not the daughter that they wanted, and that makes a lot of hurt for you, you know.
The only thing I would say though is, yeah, I think that's, it's possible. Basically what I'm saying is if we go in these other directions, which I think also will totally be beneficial, it's possible you'll still have those, you know, kind of under the surface feelings and then still feel all that panic. At the same time, I know that there have to be good reasons not to share your feelings with your mom. And so if we were, you know, even if you were bought into going in that direction, we'd first have to think through all the good reasons not to share your feelings with your mom. And I don't want to try to get you to, like, you know, tell you how to do that without your, you know, your interest and your buy-in.
No, I love what you both are saying. I really do think that the core of it is the hidden emotion. And my abode in Sorata was pretty funny.
What's behind door number 1? That looks good. What's behind door number 3? That looks good. I don't remember that third option.
Yeah. I think that's what I need.
Well, that's cool. Should we dive into it, or should we do some, as you say, good reasons not to share my feelings? Should we try to do some more agenda setting?
I mean, if we're talking hidden emotion, I imagine then that since it's not so hidden, it really is a question of maybe moving more toward like 5 secrets and how she would communicate, you know, some of these thoughts and feelings with her mom. So yeah, I think it's worth actually just asking you, Karen, because you have been so reluctant to share your feelings with your parents over the years, and you're really smart and you're a really good therapist. And so I'm guessing you've got some good reasons not to want to share your feelings with your mom, good reasons not to tell her how sad you're feeling, and you know, how hard it is to see her aging, and how much you wish she were taking better care of herself, and, or, you know, how sad it feels to not have her, you know, just loving the life that you live and the choices that you've made and stuff. So I think it's worth just doing a quick list of, you know, good reasons not to share feelings.
And these should be done, everybody, on paper or on your computer or something. And
it's really difficult. I think that good reasons not to share is to protect her, because it's not going to be pleasant to hear. Of course, it depends on how I deliver it, but it's going to be hard for her to hear.
So you want to protect her, right?
Yeah, I want to protect her.
Protect her, because it'll be hard. What are some other good reasons?
It's like when I'm upset, she's upset. And so if I'm going to tell her upset, she's going to be upset.
Second reason is we'll both get upset.
Well, yeah, because the second one is that, you know, I'm not used to being vulnerable with my parents.
Yeah. Not used to being vulnerable with my parents, and probably, sadly, many people's parents go to their grave before the children ever have a chance to be vulnerable with them and to be really close to them in a real way, and that can be painful, as Amy knows and David knows, and we'll reveal next week. But it's right. It's sometimes hard, and that's for sure. But any other good reasons not to be vulnerable? I mean, not to open up.
Not to open up.
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking about the brief mood survey in the relationship column, and I'm thinking about the level of closeness and intimacy is that I like the current status, and it goes back to vulnerability. Like being closer with them means being more vulnerable. I don't know. I'm feeling maybe that's a key in the hidden emotion here, because I'm feeling a little lost.
Like I don't. You're saying I don't want to be closer to my mom?
Yeah, I feel terrible saying that, but I'm not sure I want to feel closer.
Well, that takes a lot of courage to say that. I love that. Let's make that number 4. Not sure I want to feel close. And would that have to do with anger?
The current closeness is sufficient. I'm not sure I want to get closer.
And then what would happen if I got closer? What are some of the bad things that would happen?
I don't know. It's just, there's some things about me that I think they don't get. There are things about me that I think they don't understand. There's things about me that I think they have rejected.
And so maybe you're afraid they would reject this too? Like if they knew how I really felt, they would be more rejecting of me?
They will be rejecting again, kind of the same things.
Sure. So that's number 5 on my list.
Oh, wow. What do you have? I have 3.
Well, number 1 is protect her because it will be hard. Number 2, I'm not used to being vulnerable with my parents. Number 3, I like the current status of being distant. Number 4, I'm not sure I really want to feel close to my mother. And number 5, there are things about me that they've rejected. And so if I open up, they'll just reject me again.
Yeah. Thank you.
This has been another episode of the Feeling Good podcast. For more information, visit Dr. Burns' website at feelinggood.com, where you will find the show notes under the podcast page. You will also find archives of previous episodes and many resources for therapists and non-therapists. We welcome your comments and questions. If you want to support the show, please share the podcast with people who might benefit from it. You could also go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. I am your host, Rhonda Borowski, the director of the Feeling Great Therapy Center. We hope you enjoyed this episode. I invite you to join us next time for another episode of the Feeling Good podcast.